Mridanga Vadya Shunite Mana Abasara Sada Jache Gauravita Kirtana Shuni Ananderi Doya Nache Kirtana Shuni Ananderi Doya Shodha Bhagata Charanarenu Bhajanayanu Kula Jogala Murti Deki Amora Paramayananda Hoya Prasada Seva Korite Hoya Sakala Prapancha Joya
Hare Krishna devotees, please accept my humble obeisances of the Srila Prabhupada. Welcome devotees to today's class. Today it's an auspicious day. It's actually the appearance of Lord Vamanadeva. We did the fast yesterday. We are doing the feast today, and we are very happy to hear the glories of Lord Vamanadeva. And we have His Holiness Candramauli Swami with us. Hare Krishna Maharaj. Please accept my humble obeisances of glories to you and August Srila Prabhupada.
Glories to Srila Prabhupada, my obeisances, Anasuya, to all the devotees, Hare Krishna. So us here in the far off land of India, we are fasting today and feasting tomorrow.
Oops. We're in two different time zones, Maharaj.
Glories to the time element. Okay, so I think, and today is also the appearance of Jiva Goswami.
Yes.
So I'll include both. But we'll start with Vamanadeva, and that is Canto 8, Chapter 18, verse number 5.
Got it, Maharaj.
Hmm.
8:18. Yes.
8:18:5 is the verse. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Shronayam Shravanam Dvasayam Oreti Bhujiti Prabhu Sarve Nakshastra Taradas Takrus Taj Janmadaksinam Translation. On the day of the Shravana Dwadasi, the 12th day of the bright fortnight, in the month of Bhadra, when the moon came into the lunar mansion Shravana, at the auspicious moment of Abhijit, the Lord appeared in this universe. Considering the Lord's appearance very auspicious, all the stars and planets, from the sun to sun, Saturn were munificently charitable. Report. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, an expert astrologer, explains the word nakshastra taradya. The word nakshastra means the stars, and the word tara in this context refers to the planets, and adya means the first one specifically mentioned. Among the planets, the first is Surya, the sun, not the moon. Therefore, according to Vedic version, the modern astronomer's proposition that the moon is nearest to the earth should not be accepted in chronological order, in which people all over the world refer to the days of the week: Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, correspond to the Vedic order of the planets, and thus circumstantiates the Vedic version. Apart from this, when the Lord appeared, the planets and stars became situated very auspiciously according to astrologic calculation to celebrate the birth of the Lord. Next verse. We'll go right into the translation. O King, when the Lord appeared on Dwadasi, the 12th day of the moon, the sun was at the meridian. As every scholar knows, this Dwadasi is called Vijaya. Next. Conch shells, kettle drums, panavas, hanakas vibrated in concert. The sound of these and various other instruments was tumultuous. Being very pleased, the celestial dancing girls, Apsaras, danced in jubilation. The best of the Gandharvas sang songs, and the great sages, demigods, Manus, Pittis, and fire gods offered prayers to satisfy the Lord. The Siddhas, Vidyadharas, Kimpurushas, Kanaras, Charanas, Yakshas, Rakshas, Suparnas, the best of serpents and the followers of the demigods, all showered flowers on Aditi's residence, covering the entire house while glorifying and praising the Lord and dancing. When Aditi saw the personality of Godhead who appeared from her own womb, having accepted a transcendental body by his own spiritual potency, he was struck with wonder and was very happy. Upon seeing the child, Prajapati Kishapa exclaimed, Jaya, Jaya, in great happiness and wonder. The Lord appeared in his original form, with ornaments and weapons in hand. Although this ever-existing form is not visible in the material world, he nonetheless appeared in this form. Then, in the presence of his father and mother, he assumed the form of a Vamana, a Brahmana dwarf, a brahmachari, just like a theatrical actor. Purport. The word nata is significant. The actor changes dress to play different parts, but is always the same man. Somebody has described in Brahma Samhita 5:33 and 39, the Lord assumes many thousands of millions of forms. Advaitam Achutam Anaryanantarupam Adyam Purana Purusho. He is always present with innumerable incarnations. Amadi Murti Shukalandi Yamena Tishtam Nana Vatara Apuro Bhuva. Although he appears in various incarnations, they are not different from one another. He is the same person with the same potency, the same eternity, and the same spiritual existence, but he simultaneously assumes various forms. When Vamanadeva appeared from the womb of his mother, he appeared in the form of Narayan, with 4 hands equipped with the necessary symbolic weapons, and then immediately transformed himself into a brahmachari. This means that his body is not material. One who thinks that the Supreme Lord assumes a material body is not intelligent. He has to learn more about the Lord's position as confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita. Janma karma chame divyam evam yo veti tatpataha. One has to understand the transcendental appearance of the Lord, his original transcendental body, Sat Chit Ananda figure. Om Gyan Timidandasya Gina Jana Salakaya. Taksun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale. Shrimakti Bhakti Vedanta Swami Namane. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gongavai Pacharine. Nirvisesa Sunyavadi Pastyatya Desakarine. Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Sivasadi Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Rama. Here's a very nice detailed description of how the Lord is, and how, although he takes on many different forms, he remains one. This is very important to understand. And sometimes people say that this Indian culture, they call it Hindu culture, is polytheistic. There are many gods, but God actually, no, we are actually monotheistic, in the sense that the Lord is one, but he manifests himself in different forms according to the particular purpose that that form is meant to serve. So here, he's coming as a dwarfed Brahma, very beautifully dressed. In the preceding or the following verses, it's described how he was dressed, how he looked, and how he received so many gifts from those who were there at his appearance. And he was no more than a 12-year-old boy, brahmachari, and quite small. He performed this particular form because it had a purpose in his mission, and that will be described. But one of the Lord has 6 outstanding transcendental qualities. He's all wealth, all beauty, all knowledge, all strength, all fame, and all renunciation. And sometimes he exhibits all 6, and sometimes he exhibits 1 or 2. But according to what is the purpose of his mission, he exhibits these different qualities. Vamanadeva is especially known, at least at his birth, for his beauty. Later on, we'll hear about how he exhibits renunciation. But here, in this particular appearance, he was so beautiful, and it says that his mother, Aditi, she was struck with wonder and became overwhelmingly happy. What was the purpose of his descent? Demigods, their mother is Diti. The mother of the demons is the sister, Aditi, and the sister of Aditi is Diti. Both are wives of Kishapa. She's the mother of the demons. What happened was that the demigods were overwhelmed by the power of this very powerful general whose name was Bali. Bali was known as the king of the Daityas, demons, and he attacked the heavenly planets. Generally, the demons are not successful in the battle with the demigods. But Bali performed such austerities for his spiritual master, who pleased his spiritual master in such an exemplary way that he received the full blessings of his spiritual master. And in that full blessing, he became so powerful that it says that when he approached the heavenly planets with his armies of demons, the demigods just turned around and left. They could realize that there was no chance for them to win the battle. So they disappeared. And then now they were out of their heavenly kingdom. Aditi is concerned because the demigods are her children. And she wanted to again reinstall the demigods. So she performed a particular ceremony called the Biovrata under the guidance of her husband. And by the success of that, she received a child who became Vamanadeva, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And his mission was on behalf of the Devas. It's described that he stayed for a little while amongst his family members and friends and others, and then he went off for his mission. Bali was known to be very, very charitable. When Brahmins come, especially Brahmins, he would welcome them and honor them in so many different ways. Although he was a demon, he also respected and honored Brahminical culture. This is quite unusual in today's society. Usually demons want to destroy Brahminical culture. For Bali, he actually wanted to show that Brahminical culture is actually the culture. Yet, he was a demon. But his demoniac nature wasn't vicious like some of his followers, but it was guided by the desire to conquer and rule the entire universe. And he became quite successful. He had subjugated the lower planets, the middle planets, and the heavenly planets, simply by his power. And as we mentioned, his power came from his spiritual master, Sukracharya, who he worshipped very nicely. This is an important point. Devotees are successful by how much they please the spiritual master. When the spiritual master is pleased by their efforts in devotional service, they receive the blessings of both the spiritual master and the Lord, and they move along fast on the path of devotional service, develop spiritual and saintly qualities, and become very influential in the execution of their activities. Bali was the prime example of that. So now Vamana, on behalf of the Devas, he comes into the assembly of Bali. And because he was so beautiful and at the same time effulgent, many of the Daityas who were there with Bali, they actually became overwhelmed and rose up to honor this Brahman. Of course, they weren't aware who he was, but he was so effulgent, so beautiful, and he was a Brahmin, so they all acquiesced to his presence by honoring him by standing up. A few of them were a little bit suspicious about this appearance and didn't, so there was a mixture. But Bali, when he saw this Brahmana, he immediately came, offered his respect, and said, "Thank you for honoring our assembly. Your presence has made everything even more auspicious." And he offered so many nice articles and worship, and also washed the feet of the Lord. And then, as is usually with Bali, he wanted to give charity. It says that in each of the ashrams, there is an outstanding activity that is meant to indicate that ashram. And for the grihastas, giving in charity is foremost. If grihastas fail to give in charity, they become asara, or useless. and they cannot receive the mercy of the Lord. So, whatever charitable they have, just like we have the example of Sudama Brahmana, he was a Grihastha. And he went to see the Supreme Lord, Sri Krishna, in Dwarka on the request of his wife. He was a friend of Krishna, and he had been in the same school with Krishna when they were young boys in the Kula of Sanipani Muni. And so, in going there, his wife gave him some broken chipped rice. I mean, it was the most, what you might say, meager thing that anyone could offer. It was rice, it was broken, and it's something that he begged, but he wouldn't go without offering something. Well, this is again an indication that those in Grihastha life, particularly, actually, Srila Prabhupada said, anyone who comes to our temples, they should bring some gift for the Lord. Now, we're coming to the house of a very reputable person, in this case, the Supreme Lord. One should bring some gift, whether it's a fruit, flower, some water, some gifts, something, some foodstuffs, just to follow the principle of appreciation for visiting the home of a great personality. And so Bali was very much inclined to giving in charity, and he said to Vamanadeva, please take a benediction from me. You are a very saintly Brahmana. You have made our assembly auspicious. I want to offer you something. And Vamanadeva said, well, yeah, that is very nice. Thank you for your charitable nature, but actually, I don't require anything. But Bali was persistent. No, I want to give something, you must. Then the Lord said, all right, just to satisfy your desire to offer, I will take 3 steps of land. Bali was, astonished. You're so smart. 3 steps? What is that? I'm the controller of the entire universe. Everything is under my direction. You can ask for me anything you want. Well, and then the Lord said something very important for all of us to understand. He said, I do not require more than that. And it is understood from Shastra, one who is not satisfied for what they need will never be satisfied. One who is not satisfied for what they need, they will never be satisfied. So I have no needs, but I will take 3 steps. And then Sukracharya, he's there, the guru of Bali and the demons. He's a little suspicious. He actually knows that this personality is not only a Brahmana, but he is the supreme personality of Godhead. He's coming on behalf of the demigods. And so Sukracharya starts to instruct Bali, be careful, this person, he will take everything. Do not offer him anything. And Sukracharya was a seminal guru. He was somewhat concerned about his own wealth and his auspiciousness, and so he spoke in that way. But Bali wasn't inclined to listen to his spiritual master. It says that one must never disobey the orders of the spiritual master. That is a great offense, and that will take one down in the process of devotional service. But in this case, the spiritual master is speaking against religious principles. That when a great personality comes, and especially the Supreme Lord himself, one should be willing to offer whatever they have. And Bali, therefore, he ignored his spiritual master. But Sukracharya was persistent and kept encouraging Bali not to do it. He said that a promise is preceded by touching water and chanting mantra. And you haven't done that, so therefore you can break your promise. And Bali had said, I have already promised to give him something. But then Sukracharya spoke in that way. But then Bali was still not convinced that he should not follow through with his promise. And therefore, he rejected his spiritual master. And then Sukracharya became very unhappy and angry and said, I reject you. But Bali didn't care because he knew simply by serving this Brahmana that everything would be auspicious. And so the Lord said, all right, you have promised me 3 steps. So the Lord expanded into this transcendental form as Trivikram. It's another name for Vamana. Trivi means 3, Kram means steps. And in the first step, he took the entire lower planets and the entire middle planets with 1 step. In the second step, he broke through the covering of the material universes, went all the way up to Brahmaloka, and covered all of the higher planets. It says that when Brahma saw the foot of the Lord coming his way, he took out his common Velu pot and started to wash the beautiful feet of the Supreme Lord. And that water later became the Ganges. And that was one part of the Ganges. It mixed with other waters that later on. And then the Lord had taken all 3 planetary systems with 2 steps. And now he looked at Bali. He said, you have promised me 3 steps. I have taken only 2. You cannot fulfill your promise. Therefore, you are a thief. You are a liar. You are a cheater. After Bali had offered everything, now the Lord is speaking that way. And now Bali doesn't know what to do. He's confused. And so the Lord calls for Vasuki. Vasuki is the mystic serpent. And he comes and he ties up Bali like an ordinary criminal. Now Bali is there before the Lord in the assembly. He's tied up. His head is lowered to the ground. He's in a very pitiable situation. The Lord is also saying, where should I place my 3rd step? And then just around that same time, Prahlad Maharaj comes into the assembly. Now, Prahlad Maharaj is the grandfather of Bali. Bali's father is Varochana, and Varochana is the son of Prahlad. So now Bali's grandfather, Prahlad Maharaj, comes. He sees his grandfather, the great Prahlad Maharaj, because they are from the same family. Prahlad Maharaj, although he was a pure devotee of the Lord, he took birth in the family of Daityas, or demons. And therefore, he is also considered to be the king of the Daityas. And when Bali saw his grandfather, he offered prayers and obeisances in the best way he could in a tied up position. Upon doing that, he received the knowledge that he needed to know during this difficult situation. And then he became enlightened. And then he said to the Lord, my dear Lord, please put your 3rd step upon my head. I surrender to you completely. And this is what the Lord was waiting for. And then the Lord offered his transcendental foot on the head of Bali, and Bali became completely purified from all of his tendencies. And the Lord was so pleased with Bali, the ropes of the Vasuki fell off, and the Lord congratulated Bali for his devotion and said that You are so very dear to me that I will give you a place in the lower heavenly planets. There are a set of lower planets that are considered to be heavenly planets also. They're very opulent, but they're below the middle system. They're in the lower planets where great opulence is there. And one of them is Sutala. And you will become a doorkeeper I will become a doorkeeper. I will expand myself into my form and become a doorkeeper, and you will be the king of Sutala. And when you come, I will open the door for you. So the Lord wanted to show his love for for Bali. Bali is considered to be one of the Mahajans. Mahajanoyena Katasampata. He teaches the process of pure devotional service. Each of them, he represents complete surrender to devotion, that one gives up everything for the service of the Lord. Sometimes we give up wealth, we give up time, energy, intelligence. The one who completely gives up everything, and just like Bhaktivinoda Thakur prays in that way, Manaso Deho, Geho, you'll get you more our pilun to our today, Nanda Kishore. Nanda Kishore Krishna, my home, my family, my body, my possessions, everything, it's yours. It belongs to you. I surrender completely. So this was Bali exemplified and perfected process of complete surrender to Krishna. And that is one of the 9 processes of bhakti. Perfected by Bali, and one who follows that actually reaches the stage of perfection. So he's qualified to teach transcendental or religious principles. And then, of course, the Lord's mission was complete. The demigods again regained control of their heavenly planets and again became. But then right after that, a big war breaks out between the demigods and the demons. So these things go on all the time. The acharyas, including Srila Prabhupada, said there is a constant battle between Sura and Asura. There's a constant eternal battle that goes on somewhere within the material universes. Right now, we have one right here on the planet Earth that's going on right now. The battle between the demigods and the devotees and the demons for supremacy in the world. Demons want to take everything and use it for their selfish interests and control everything and everyone. And the devotees want to spread the Sankirtan movement and bring everyone to Krishna consciousness. So this fight is going on right now, today, this minute, because it is a constant battle between these two forces. And that's mentioned in the Shastras. And the Lord is incarnated in this age in 2 ways, in his deity form, Archavigraha, one worships the Lord in the temple, but the incarnation for purifying the world and to push back the demoniac influence in the world is the chanting of the Hare Krishna mantra. Nama Chintamani Krishna Chaitanya Rasa Vigraha Sudya Mukta Nitya Bhakta Advinna Tvam Nami Namino. What is that? Kali Kale Namarupa Krishna Avatar. And Krishna has descended in this age in the form of his name. It was the avatar in order to purify the whole age and to awaken Krishna consciousness in the hearts of every living entity, particularly in the middle planetary systems. And so, don't be surprised if you find there's difficulty in the world because there are demons. Wherever there's demons, there's difficulty. Prabhupada said, Maya, we have no problem with Maya. Maya's our friend. But because the demons are there, he has to serve the demons. And because of the demons, there's so many problems. So anyway, but Prabhupada said, chant the Hare Krishna mantra. spread the glories of the Lord everywhere, purify the atmosphere. Wherever there is kirtan, wherever there is japa, wherever it's going on in any place throughout the universe, that sound vibration is not only purifying that area, but is purifying everywhere. Power of the holy name spreads throughout the world because it is Krishna himself appearing in the form of his transcendental holy name. This is a beautiful pastime. There's much more. You can start reading where I left off and continue, and you'll get all of the intrigue and of the different details of this wonderful pastime. So today is the appearance day of the dwarf Brahmana Vamanadeva, who came to, on behalf of the demigods, to restore the three worlds back to its proper authorities, the devas, who work under the direction of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Maharaj, would you be continuing with the pastime of Srila Jiva Goswami too, Maharaj?
Yeah, we'll speak a little bit of Jiva Goswami, then we can combine the questions. Okay, today is the appearance of Jiva Goswami. Srila Prabhupada says that out of all of the Goswamis, he is considered to be the Acharya of Shastra. He is known not only within the realm of Vaishnava circles, but even outside of Vaishnava circles as the greatest authority on religious scriptures. He has written the Sandarbhas, the Tattva Sandarbha, Bhakti Sandarbha, Priti Sandarbha, Paramatma Sandarbha, various types of Sandarbhas, 6 Sandarbhas. These are deep philosophical teachings about the whole science of bhakti and the importance of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and who appears in his different forms. Jiva Goswami has written 400,000 verses, which is unbelievably immense in terms of comparative to any other. Even Rupa Goswami didn't come close to that, who is our Abhideya Acharya. So Jiva Goswami was a nephew of Rupa and Sanatan Goswami, and he's famous for writing his Sandarbhas, and Srila Prabhupada mentions that we should read these Sandarbhas. They're very difficult to understand, but that's okay. If you carefully read them and reread, you will start to understand, and they're very deep in philosophical teachings. But the Tattva Sandarbha is a lot easier to understand out of all those the Sandarbhas, which delineates the whole science of devotional service. And in that, he describes the glories of Srimad Bhagavatam. And as he describes, he says that the Bhagavatam has millions and millions, not millions, but billions of verses. It's explained in there that the Bhagavatam has, in the heavenly planets, they also have their editions of the Srimad Bhagavatam. In their version, they have 1 billion verses. We have 18,000 verses. Jiva Goswami has written many things. He had the direct, only when he was a little boy, he actually had the association of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. All of the 6 Goswamis were disciples of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And because of that, they are the foundation by which all Vaishnava Shastras became unfolded nicely. And we have so many works. Here I am here in Ujjain now, and we are doing a series on the Shikshastakam here. And Srila Prabhupada talks about the Shikshastakam. He said that the Goswamis wrote all of their books based on these 8 verses of the Shikshastakam prayers. And so we can understand how deep and complete these 8 verses are. And of course, we have Jiva Goswami has written many, many treatises. Gopal Champu, which is a nice description of Krishna's pastimes in Vrindavan. What else? Turn to Madhya Lila, chapter 1, Chaitanya Charitamrita. Yeah. Let's see. Keep going down. I'm not sure where it is. It's a long, and I think it mentions the Goswamis as you go down the page. Just keep going. You can go quickly down the page. Okay, here.
Maharaj, right here, Sanatan Goswami.
Yeah. Okay. Verse number 42.
42. Okay.
Swami's nephew, Srila Jiva Goswami, has compiled so many books on devotional service that there is no counting them. Next verse. Bhakti Sandarbha Jiva Goswami has written conclusively about the ultimate end of devotional service. Bhagavad Sandarbha is known as the Sat Sandarbha, and is part of the Tattva Sandarbha. It has proved that Srimad Bhagavatam, it proves it's the most authoritative evidence directly pointing to the absolute truth. The second Sandarbha, called Bhagavad Sandarbha, draws a distinction between impersonal Brahman and localized Brahman, and describes the spiritual world and the domination of the mode of goodness devoid of contamination. And so it goes down to describe more and more. Keep going down the page. Let's see. The third Sandarbha is the Paramatma Sandarbha. Explains the super soul and exists in millions and millions of living entities. The fourth, Krishna Sandarbha. It proves that Krishna is the supreme personality of Godhead. And the Bhakti, the fifth Sandarbha is called Bhakti Sandarbha. Go down farther. And then after you come to Bhakti Sandarbha, you come to Priti Sandarbha, and this is thesis on the whole science of the love of God. And different forms of liberation are also mentioned there. Keep going down the page. And then go to the next verse. I think there might be more on Jiva Goswami, I'm not sure. Yeah, here we go. Gopal Champu is by Jiva Goswami. And that is all of Krishna's pastimes, nicely described in a nice setting. And here it describes the different Vrindavan, Gokul, Putana, the dream of Mother Yasoda, Janmashtami, the meeting of Nanda Maharaj, many of the things that are in the Bhagavatam, but these are all of the subject matters of Gopal Champu. Goes all the way down, describing. Continue to go. And there's another part called the Uttarya Champu. And there's an extension of taking it now out of Vrindavan into Mathura and into Dwarka. And then you continue to go to the next verse. I think there's more books that are listed by Jiva Goswami. Yeah, so this gives a little hint. Yeah, that's about it. Of just some of the books that Jiva Goswami penned while he was here. And so he is one of our acharyas. And he's also attacked by other acharyas for his controversial statements regarding Parakiya Ras and Swakiya Ras. the two different ways by which the gopis connect with Krishna in loving service. There's a few other statements made. And Prabhupada points that out in some of these verses in Chaitanya Charitamrita, how a certain class of men take issue with some of Jiva Goswami's statements, but ultimately they're proven to be incorrect, as Jiva Goswami spoke a lot of times from the position of preaching rather than the position of the Shastra Tattva. Sometimes for the sake of preaching, just like we have the example of Buddha. Buddha is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and he came, but he said, forget about the Vedas, just worship the Eightfold form of mystic process and worship me. And so he took people off the Vedas. Now, God actually is the author of the Vedas, and it says in the Bhagavad Gita that the purpose of the Vedas is to know the Supreme Lord, and he is also the compiler. But Buddha, for the sake of preaching, did something completely opposite and took people away from the Vedas in order for people to stop committing sinful activities of killing animals in the name of Vedic sacrifice. Sometimes you'll find there is some controversy in certain statements, but these controversies are the element of preaching according to time, place, and circumstance for a certain class of people. And so that feature of disseminating knowledge, you find even today, that sometimes, just like Srila Prabhupada, when he sent one devotee to preach in Russia, the devotee said, Prabhupada, there's nothing to eat here. There's only, fleshy food. Prabhupada said, that's all right, eat something, preach Krishna consciousness. So he kind of dispensed with the idea that you had to stay strict in your food consumption. If you meant not preaching, then preaching is more. So this element of preaching sometimes allows for this leadway of changing things in order to facilitate a certain message at a particular time, place, or circumstance. But Jiva Goswami was expert at doing that, and sometimes he's misunderstood because of that. Okay, there's a little bit about Jiva Goswami, his appearance. He met Lord Chaitanya along with his brothers, his father, his uncles. Rupa Goswami and Sanatana Goswami were his uncles. His father was Anupam, who was a brother of Rupa and Sanatana Goswami, but he died. And then Jiva Goswami took shelter under his uncles, Rupa and Sanatana Goswami. But he is known as the greatest of all philosophers in Vedic knowledge. And if you read his Sandarbhas, I mean, it's a great read. There are many, many books. There's about, and there's another whole series of Sandarbhas called the Krama Sandarbhas, also by Jiva Goswami. It'll take you some time, but it's an intellectual exercise. It'll challenge your ability to understand philosophy, but it's interesting because it goes deep into the science of bhakti. Okay.
Thank you, Maharaj. Thank you so much for this wonderful pastimes. We have the first question ready to be asked. Go ahead, Mother Supriya.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to all assembled devotees. Maharaj, you talked about a couple of points in this lecture, and I have related 3 questions, Maharaj. First question is about, yes, it's given in the Bhagavad Gita that Lord's body is not material whenever he appears on the earth. So I'm still not sure why do we celebrate Chandan Yatra in India which is especially during the hot season, during the May. And when I asked devotees, they said that because it's very hot outside and we would like to apply chandan paste, a sandalwood paste to Lord's body so that he feels cool. But in the case of a transcendental body, there is no concept of a hot and a cold. So why are we celebrating that?
Because he's coming like one of us. He takes prasadam, he sleeps.
Yeah, but it goes against what's mentioned in Bhagavad Gita, right? We are still, that means we are considering he still feels hot and cold.
Yeah, that's good for you. You should think like that.
So should we celebrate it or should we skip that celebration?
No, it's for your benefit. You're worshiping the Lord in that way. He comes to accept worship. If he comes as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Prabhupada said, how can you dress him? You don't have enough cloth to even dress him.
Okay.
He comes as one of us to accept service for your benefit. For your benefit.
Mm-hmm.
But if he wants to exhibit his transcendental qualities, he can. But for the sake of accepting service, he comes in the form of the deity we wake him up, dress him, we feed him, put him to sleep, and we treat him like our own child. That is his mercy upon us. But his body is still transcendental. It's for your benefit. If you think, oh, his body is he doesn't need anything. Just like if you have your deity at the house, he's a deity, he doesn't need anything. I'll just keep him there and I'll just, take the dust off every once in a while. I don't have to feed him because he eats the whole universe anyway. He's never hungry. And then what is the use of your worship? Useless.
Someone told me that Lord exhibited this pastime when he was on earth. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I am. He did.
Okay.
Everything's in the scriptures. All you have to do is accept the words of the acharyas, and then you'll understand everything. If you try to speculate according to your own ideas and make the comparison that God is like us, or he's not like us, whatever, then you commit offenses. Avajanti mam buddha manusam tananastutam param bhavam jnananta mama buddha maheshwara. It says, people, when I come in my transcendental form, they think my body is material. But it's not. It's always transcendental. But for the sake of worship, he accepts our service.
Mm-hmm.
That's his mercy.
Mm-hmm.
Don't listen to other people. Listen to the scriptures. Listen to the Prabhupada, and then you won't be confused. You don't read Prabhupada's books or hear from Prabhupada, then we speculate. We take one thing out of the scripture and we try to say it, we try to understand it, not understanding the whole principle, or the principle that it represents. That's why you need guru to help you understand. Without guru, then it's just, we speculate. That's it. Speculation leads to ignorance.
Hope that helped.
Yeah, yeah. I
Yeah.
understood it's because Lord wants to accept the service, and also it was one of the pastimes of the Lord mentioned in the scriptures, and that's what we want to remember his pastime, and also offer him service in the way that that he accepts.
Hare Krishna.
Huh?
Hare
Am
Krishna.
I right? Am I right, Maharaj?
Keep reading the books.
Okay.
Keep hearing from Prabhupada. Everything will become clear. If you try to understand God according to your level, it's not possible. It's way
Maharaj,
our level to understand.
Maharaj, in today's lecture, you also mentioned Vamanadeva pastime. So in that, when he asked Bali Maharaj for the 3 feet land, isn't it like something like a manipulation when he expands himself and occupies all the land with the 2 feet, and then wants Bali Maharaj to surrender him in the 3rd feet? Doesn't it go against the free will? Because Bali Maharaj never had a free will to surrender himself, right?
Yeah, but everything belongs to God anyway. He's just taking back what belongs to him.
Yes, he's taking, but it's not a free will given to Bali Maharaj.
It's not a what?
It's not a free will. The third step that he had to put on his head was not a free will. Bali Maharaj free will, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
yes, it was. It was free will. Bali said yes. Put your 3rd step on my head. He said it. Bali said it. After he became enlightened by his grandfather, Prahlad Maharaj, he understood what to do. You should do it too. Surrender. We're all meant to surrender. If we don't surrender, then you surrender to Maya. You surrender to your own ideas. Surrendering to Krishna means fulfilling our desire for ultimate happiness.
okay. Maharaj, any third question I'll ask if no one has any question.
Supriya, can I ask this question in chat and then I'll come back to you?
Sure.
Just hang on to your third question. Thank you. Maharaj, this is a question from Nashing Alila. She said, Hare Krishna Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances, all the Shishra Prabhupada, Guru Maharaj. How to distinguish between being stingy and managing money carefully? I was raised during war, and the period after war was even worse. Plus, my parents didn't spend money recklessly. So I used to use resources in a very thoughtful way. The problem is that the same mentality is that when giving donations, and I'm not sure, is that mentality a burden for my spiritual growth or when? Please shed some light on this matter. Thank you.
Well, as we mentioned, for those living in Grihastha life, giving in charity is part of their regulative principles that govern that ashram. So they should give in charity. Prabhupada actually set the formula, which was given by Srila Rupa Goswami. But we don't follow that in this ISKCON, although Prabhupada has stated it 10 different times in 10 different places. And one should give half of their wealth, earned wealth, to foster religious principles in the world. In other words, for the devotees, temples, programs, preaching, whatever. 50% is supposed to go for that. 25% you keep to maintain yourself, and then 25% you save in the bank for emergencies. That was Rupa Goswami's formula, and Prabhupada mentions it. But we see, even in our society, very few follow that. I think it's too much. So, but the thing is, nobody's forcing anyone to give 50%. But one should give something regularly. It's because the idea of grihastha life is Majanasamoham Yamaham Nimaiti. This is my house, these are my children, this is my husband, this is my wife, these are my possessions. So in order to help break that illusion, moha, janasa moha, one has to give in charity regularly. So one can decide from amongst themselves, among the family members, how to give in charity. But one should give in charity. Even sannyasis are supposed to, Brahmins supposed to give in charity also. Even if they're not in grihastha life, they should also give charity. Brahmin receives help. I was telling you, Brahmins never keeps money in the bank. Whatever he gets, he spends it immediately, gives it in charity. He remains a beggar. Well, we don't follow the Vedic culture because we think it's not practical in our Western lifestyle. Because we have so many things that we need to spend money on. We're working hard in order to get money. But so that concession is there. But the point is, give something. Do something in charity. Otherwise, you'll remain hard-hearted. If you don't give in charity when you're in a grihastha life, you'll develop a sense of hard-heartedness. Bhaktisiddhanta chastised his grihasthas for when beggars came along and asked for some donation, they didn't give. He chastised them. He said, you will remain hard-hearted. And when you're hard-hearted, you cannot practice devotional service. The heart has to become soft. The heart has to become in the mood of giving. So the devotee is always in the mood of giving. Time, we give our time, we give our energy, we give our intelligence, we give our words, we give our resources. The devotee is always thinking how to use whatever Krishna has given me for devotional service or for the benefit of others. That's a devotee. And particularly in grihastha life, it is required as a principle that one should give regularly, accordingly in charity. How much you give, you decide. But something. There's people who don't have the finances to give, so they figure out other ways how they can give. So they come to the temple and do services. Although they're living outside, they come to the temple and they do services. And that way they're giving in charity in that sense.
I hope that helped, Noshangalina, Prabhu. You can put a post in the message if you would like. Yes, she says, thank you. Yes, Namrata, Mataji, go ahead.
Hare Krishna, please accept my humble obeisances of glories to Srila Prabhupada. So, you mentioned about Srimad Bhagavatam. It has millions of verses. We have so much here on this planet, but other planets have more verses, like heavenly planets and all. So why is this difference? Is it because we have heard in Srimad Bhagavatam that it is basically more written for the people of Kali Yuga. So is it the time factor which is which is there here, or it is for the bhakti purpose, for devotional service purpose?
Well, we have our author, the Vedic knowledge, which is Vyasadeva. And Vyasadeva translated the Vedanta Sutras. He took the Vedanta Sutras, put them in codes called the Brahma Sutras, and then expanded them into the Srimad Bhagavatam, into 18,000 verses, at least on this planet. But Bhagavatam, as explained by Jiva Goswami, is the glories of the Lord and his pure devotees. That's Bhagavatam. So that's not limited. Just like, I'll give you an example. This is a very interesting statement. One devotee asked Srila Prabhupada, is Joan of Arc mentioned in the Bhagavatam? So those of you who have Christian backgrounds, you know Joan of Arc was a militant Christian saint. She fought a war on behalf of the Crusades, on behalf of Christianity, and she's canonized as a saint. So that question was, is she in the Bhagavatam? And Prabhupada said, why do you limit Bhagavatam? Bhagavatam is about the glories of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and his devotees. It's not just the Vedic or the Indian culture that has what do we call it, a monopoly on Bhagavatam. Wherever there is the glories of the Lord and his pure devotees, that's Bhagavatam.
Thank you, Maharaj.
We have 18 verses because that was given to us by Vyasadeva. But Bhagavatam extends itself way beyond that. 1 billion verses is what the heavenly planets, well, they're more qualified to understand than we are. They're more intelligent and in general, much more devoted, at least to some degree.
Thank you. Thank you for that. I think that is the feature of Bhagavatam, which is ever expanding. So
Right now, the ISKCON movement is actually expanding Bhagavatam. The activities of the devotees within ISKCON is increasing the pages of Bhagavatam.
thank you, Maharaj. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Namrata Mataji. Sridevi, I think you had a hand up and you took it down. Do you want to ask a question still before we go to the next one?
Yes, if I may. Thank you, Anastasia.
Please, go ahead.
My humble obeisances, Maharaj. My humble obeisances to you, devotees, all glories to Prabhupada. So, when we say that the Srimad Bhagavatam is not limited, we understand that everything is there. Life of Jesus Christ is also described. So, can we conclude that even though we may not be able to find it or understand where it is, that all these saints which you mentioned, like Joan of Arc or Saint Francis of Assisi, or any other great saint, even belonging to the Muslim tradition or the Christian tradition, they all are mentioned in the Bhagavatam?
They have their own scriptures, but Prabhupada was giving the complete definition of what Bhagavatam actually means. He wasn't limiting it to just the scripture we have, which we know as Bhagavatam. He was trying to give us an understanding of the principle of what Bhagavatam actually means. But they have their own scriptures and they have their own delineations of the pastimes and activities of their saints.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Sridevi. Supriya, we can go back to your third question.
Well, Maharaj, this question is very generic. It's not related to today's discussion, but when it comes to like when we see churches in Western countries, some of the churches, they have this cult culture. So some of the churches, they have spiritual leaders who are quite manipulative. They manipulate people. So now this manipulation happens when there is power dynamic, meaning both the parties are not considered equal. So how do we save ourselves from such manipulation if it occurs in a relationship? It can be any relationship.
You're feeling manipulated?
I was manipulated because I was manipulated once when I was working. That time I had no concept of emotional manipulation or spiritual manipulation. But later on, someone told me that there are toxic people, there are difficult people. I did a lot of psychological study. What is toxic people? How to identify them, and etc. etc. Then I came to know this. I mean, I spent significant time in studying this, and I had to go through healing myself also.
Well, don't allow yourself to be manipulated. If you know that you're being manipulated. The fact that there are people like that, you'll find them everywhere. You'll find them in religious organizations. You'll find them in all the secular organizations. You'll find them in the families. Manipulation is there everywhere. This is the material world. But unfortunately, sometimes these people who are manipulative, they manipulate their way into a position of authority, and then they manipulate others from that position.
Exactly.
You should be able to recognize that. Bali didn't listen to Shukracharya because he understood, although he was the spiritual master, and he worshipped him, he was now deviating from his role as a spiritual master. Because the spiritual master is supposed to bring you to Krishna, now he was saying, don't worship Krishna. So Bali could see that, so he didn't allow himself to be manipulated by the spiritual master. So if you can recognize that you're being manipulated, prevent it.
Exactly, Maharaj. Manipulation happens when there is a power dynamic, like one person has more power than the other person. So the person who is powerful, he tries to manipulate the person who is less powerful in the relationship.
Yeah,
And
it goes on everywhere. There's husbands who manipulate their wives. There's wives who manipulate their husbands. There's husbands and wives who manipulate their kids. And then manipulation is always there because people have material desires. Because they have material desires, they try to fulfill their material desires in whatever position they're in.
but Maharaj, you said this happens only in material world. It does that mean it doesn't happen in spiritual world?
No. If there's any manipulation in the spiritual world, it's done for the benefit of the person.
Can you give me an example?
Example?
Like benefit in what sense?
I don't think the word manipulation, it has a certain negative connotation. And so when you apply that word in the spiritual context, it doesn't fit. Because manipulation sound, it indicates selfishness. And there's no selfishness in the spiritual world.
Yeah.
So someone just like, for instance, in Krishna's pastimes, Krishna, he hides. Sometimes when his mother puts him to bed in the evening, he waits till she goes to sleep, and then he gets up and sneaks out and meets Radharani. So his mother thinks he's sleeping, but he's actually out there performing his pastime. Now that's not manipulation. It's just how Krishna does things. So he actually, well, he looks like he's acting like an ordinary person. So there's no manipulation in the spiritual world, but there's things that go on, just like someone is supposed to do something and they do something else. But it's all part of the Leela. It's all for Krishna's pleasure. Everyone benefits. Krishna steals butter. And the gopis, the senior gopis, they get angry at Krishna and they try to catch him. And when they want to catch him, they want to punish him. But Krishna does that because ultimately they're feeling happiness that Krishna's come and steal their butter, ultimately. And that's not manipulation, that is transcendental love. Manipulation is the word is very connotative in a negative way. It's a negative connotation, manipulation. That happens in a material way, not in the spiritual way.
What I mean here is manipulation means something that you don't want to do, but the other person uses some kind of a power or influence or some kind of a mechanism to benefit himself against your will.
Yeah.
So what I felt is that when Vamanadeva, he initially was a god Brahmana.
It's not manipulation, that's transcendental. Benedicting through transcendental pastimes. It's not manipulation. Sometimes, the spiritual master will want you to do something and you won't want to do it. And so he'll create ways for you to somehow or other not be able to disobey his instructions. So is he manipulating you or is he actually giving you a benefit?
I don't know. You have to tell me.
Let's go on to another question because
That was another question. Like yes, if something like this happens,
you have a mental block, and I can't get through that mental block because you're still thinking in the same way. You're not hearing anything I'm saying. So why waste time? We're just wasting time. Either you try to, if you're going to ask me a question, try to understand the answer, or otherwise don't ask the question. If you don't like the answer, then don't ask the question. I'm telling you, manipulation in spiritual life, there are people who are manipulating for their own selfish interest. And then there's people who use a certain way to get things done, which is not manipulation, it's for the benefit of the person. So you can't generalize in that sense. You have to see the distinction. So if you feel manipulated, then do something. Is the spiritual master manipulating his disciples because he's giving them things that they don't want to do? No, he's trying to help them.
Thank you, Marge. Hope that helped. Thank you. Marge, if I can, if you allow me to share a little pastime when he talked about how the spiritual master uses techniques, I think is a better word than manipulation.
That's a good
word. Techniques to benefit the disciple. It's a very simple, basic thing, but many years ago when Actually, Marge, I don't know whether you remember this pastime, Marge, but when you were having lunch with Bhaktitirtha Swami, this was back in Gitanagari in the 90s. And I think he was on the phone and you happened to be in his room. And I set both your plates up for lunch. And I think at that time I might be pregnant with Manoharini, Vrinda at that time. And I made the plate up, and then in Bhaktitirtha Swami was on the phone, really busy with, and you were waiting for him to have prasadam in his room on this corner table, March, if you remember, by the window, that little round table there. So in 10 minutes, he called me and he says, "Why are you making the hungry boys of Krishna, the cowherd boys of Krishna hungry?" Do you remember that, Maharaj? I don't know whether you did, but I do. And you just sat there and you laughed because both of you ate in 10 minutes that whole big plate. And I remember him saying, "You're not feeding us well. Go and bring more prasadam." And it was a technique to help me to serve you more. And then later on, he says, "Oh, you didn't make my dessert." I'll never forget that first time, Maharaj. And he said, "You didn't make my dessert. Where's my lemon pie?" Because much he used to love lemon pie like anything. And I did, but it wasn't set. And then he used that technique to say, "Well, go make it now and come back," which I did. And the both of you just sat there waiting for the lemon pie to be set. It was austere, but it was a technique to help me speed up to get my cooking faster.
If I have to sit with Bhakti Tirtha Swami and wait for your lemon pie, either way, it's transcendentally wonderful.
I will never.
Waiting for the lemon pie and getting the lemon pie is both good.
March, I'll never forget that pastime, how he used that technique to make me move faster. And I was really big with Vrinda. I was like in my last trimester, but he made me move fast. And I got that surge of energy to, okay, I gotta get the lemon pie, gotta get the lemon pie. March was lemon pie. I was just thinking about that, March, when you said that. I just wanted to, I will never forget that pastime.
Yeah, you got special mercy a lot.
Only by the mercy of my spiritual master, March, and yourself.
Okay, next time I come with Maharaj, make sure the lemon pie is ready.
Yes, Maharaj. Next time you come, because I know when you come, you bring Bhaktitirtha Swami with you. I'll have the lemon pie ready, Maharaj. But it may not be according to your diet, though, Maharaj. Is that okay?
Doesn't matter because it's your lemon pie. It's good.
I'll make it, Maharaj, for sure. I'll make the lemon pie for you.
I became a fan of lemon pie just by associating with someone who likes lemon pie.
Maharaj, he loved lemon pie. He used to sneak in the fridge at night sometimes when I leave it there, and he would have a slice, like around 9, 10 o'clock at night. I remember those days.
Yeah, I have also my intrigues, which I can't tell to everybody.
We'll keep it a secret, Maharaj.
But yeah, lemon pie is quite nice, when you think about it.
Uh-oh. I think I made the situation worse. I'm sorry, Maharaj.
You forgot one word.
Which one? Uh-oh.
Lemon cream pie.
Ooh, okay, Maharaj. I'll make that for you.
You used to make it, didn't you make it with the cream in it too?
Yes, I did both with and without, but I would put with the cream, the whipped cream. Oh, it was like luscious. Look at Sri Devi's eyes. She's like,
we got elevated to Swarga Local for at least for a little while.
I'll make it for you, Marge, for sure. When you come, I'll make that for you.
I'm on my way.
But I was just thinking how the spiritual master does that, just to uses different techniques. I mean, it may appear that, someone, might think, oh, but, the guru is trying to be greedy, but actually he's trying to make that, at least what I got from that is he gave me the opportunity to move faster to get the pie ready.
You tell us the story of Srila Prabhupada on the train. He was riding the train in India. and he was with a few disciples. One of them was Jamuna. And she was a, expert cook. So Prabhupada said to Jamuna, make me a pot of hot basmati rice with ghee. This is on the train. So she has to go into the kitchen, the train kitchen. And so she said, well, to the cooks there, my spiritual master is asking for hot basmati rice with ghee. Can you make it? They said, there's the kitchen, you make it. They didn't want to do it. So she wanted to fulfill Prabhupada's desires. So she went in and she saw all the pots were completely black. Completely black. And Prabhupada taught us that if there's one black spot on the pot, you can't cook. Pots have to be completely free from black spots. Otherwise, Krishna will not accept the offering. Prabhupada was very strict on that part. So these were like caked on gigantic pots with, layers of black. And now she has to cook. So she took out the scrub pads and all of the soap and whatever else she could find. And she hacked away at the black. Took her 2 hours to clean one pot. And, Prabhupada's, sitting there waiting for the rice. Train's going on. And then finally she finished, got the pot clean, cooked the rice, brought it to Prabhupada. Prabhupada was so happy. He never said anything about the time that she took. Prabhupada wanted that rice. And he was willing to, and he understood that, she was what she was doing, and that's why it took so long. Not only was she trying to please him by making rice, but she wanted to do it the way he instructed her. Clean pot.
Maharaj, may I add a little more to that beautiful pastime?
No.
Okay.
What can you add more to it?
Well, actually, they refused her. They told, no. This is the Indian Railways kitchen. We cannot allow anyone to cook. And she said, if you don't allow me to cook for my spiritual master, I'm going to jump off the train right now.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's a good part. She said that. Yeah. She said, I'm going to jump off the train if you don't allow me to cook for my spiritual master.
They got so frightened. Okay, you can cook.
Yeah, they wouldn't let anybody use their kitchen. So the desire to fulfill the instructions of the spiritual master becomes the life and soul of the disciple.
Thank you much. Beautiful pastime. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for Sri Devi for adding that element of surrender.
Thank you. Yes, Srimati, let's go with your question, Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Guru Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances always to share Prabhupada. Guru Maharaj, when I'm reading Bhagavad Gita 16th chapter, it's written, Srila Prabhupada is explaining that when demons are coming into this world and they don't take up, and even what I can say, so they go deeper into the lower species, and Krishna's mercy is not possible for them. So at what point they can get come out of this demoniac mentality or demoniac species of life, Maharaj? Like they take birth in lower species like animals, insects, and all. It has written in the purport. So I was wondering, like, is there their free will which is obstructing them to come out of that lower species, or it's like they are never getting Lord's mercy? to come out of this demoniac life. So
They have to somehow have to get some good fortune.
Hmm.
Maybe if they're a bug, they get stepped on by a devotee. Or if they're something, or maybe if they're a big demon, they're killed by Krishna. Something has to happen in order for them to rise themselves back up. It may take that verse you're referring to. I think it's verse number 23, in the,
Yeah.
where
yes, Ganesh, yeah, in the
lower species of life after lower species, life after life. They never see the light of day.
Yeah.
So somehow, in due course of time, something may happen where they get a chance to come back up.
So that is also Krishna's arrangement only, right, Guru Maharaj?
Obviously.
Hmm.
Because Krishna loves everyone. Even Prabhupada said demons, even the demons, they have love of God, but they're so covered over. Yeah, it's not that Krishna loves one living entity more than another. He loves them equal, but he deals with them according to how they approach him. His love is perfect, and his love is equal. He says that, Samoham Sarvabhuteshu Name Dveshasvi Priya. I'm equal to everyone, I envy no one, nor am I partial to anyone. But one who renders service to me is in me, and I am in them. Because the demons, they don't render service, they stay far away from the Lord. But still, the Lord doesn't forget about them. In due course of time, they'll get a chance to come back up. But it may take millions of lifetimes.
Yeah.
Like here we are, most of us, we don't even realize how many lives we've been in the material world. All we can do is calculate our existence based on our present life. But we've been in so many species of life for millions of years. Some of us. So, yeah. And that's the thing about, you forget. When you leave your body in one life, you forget what was in the past and you live life in the present. And that becomes the only reality. Past is not recollectable. We cannot recollect the past because the forgetfulness is complete.
Yes, Guru Maharaj, thank you so much.
Thank you, Srimati. Sridevi, please go ahead with the question, Mataji.
I wanted to actually comment because on the subject of cheating, manipulation, abuse, exploitation, etc. This is the nature of Kali Yuga, and many of us go through many negative experiences before we come to Krishna consciousness. And then when we come to Krishna consciousness, obviously we are very distrustful, very wary, very scared, etc., etc. So I was remembering two wonderful books written by Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj, Leadership for a Higher Consciousness 1 and 2, in which Maharaj beautifully describes the character of a servant leader, his exemplary character, his spotless character, his generous heart, which is so compassionate, how he or she, I mean, it's not gender based, but he describes so nicely the characteristics of an exemplary servant leader. So much so that one of the senators in the USA, when he got hold of that book, he was so impressed. He said, I have never come across a book like this, never. And he said, I have learned so much from reading this book. So these are books for, all of us to read and understand. Saintly rulers make the difference. In Kali Yuga, we have no such concept even. But in Satya Yuga and even to a certain extent, the Treta Yuga, we had saintly rulers, and that's how the land was prosperous, the people were prosperous, the cows were happy, there was so much bountiful, plentiful produce, etc. So just wanted to share that about leadership for a higher consciousness. Thank you.
Yeah, yeah, that's revolutionary in the material world, but in the spiritual world, it's the foundation by which devotional service goes on. The leader sees himself as the servant. An example was given that when Srila Prabhupada commented about his disciples, he said, referring to his disciples, all of you have come because you are sent by my spiritual master. Because I want to serve him, he has sent you to me for me to help me in my mission of spreading Krishna consciousness. Therefore, you are my spiritual masters. He said, Prabhupada saw his disciples as his own spiritual masters. Because they're coming from my spiritual master to assist me in my mission to my spiritual master.
Thank you, Maharaj, for reminding us. That was beautiful one.
Yeah. If you think you're the guru, then you're a guru. How? There's guru and guru. So guru is a position of service. That's it. Just like whether you are a temple president, a yatra leader, a sannyasi, any position you may have within the spiritual circles is an opportunity for service. If you identify with the position, then you are not understanding who you actually are. Because all living entities are servants. And whatever position we have, we serve from that position. And service means for the benefit of those you're serving. In the material world, it's all upside down. That I'm the master and you're the servant. Therefore, you know. But in the spiritual world, it's different. There's only Ekala Isha Krishna Asa Brita. There's only one master, everybody else is servant.
Thank you, Maharaj. Mother Scarlett, please go ahead.
Hare Krishna, and thank you very much for today's class. I read, I have listened to your lecture in the morning, and which led me to Canto 8. And in Canto 8, in chapter 22 and verse 25, there it's mentioned that while rotating in the cycle of birth and death, again and again in different species, because of his own fructive activity, the dependent living entity, by good fortune, may happen to become human being. So what I don't understand is there's two things it makes me wonder. One is how can an animal do good things because they have this animalistic behavior, so they don't know good and bad, they just do. And how come they could do something good to be a human being? And the other thing, how do I know that I was the animal and now I'm from previous life, I was animal and now I'm a person, or I have been a human and always return as a human just to learn something. You know what I mean?
Well, there's two questions, right?
Yes.
The first one is,
The
how
an-
can, well, how can an animal or someone who is in a very punishable situation, receive some mercy? Sometimes that's called a gyata sukriti, unknowingly doing devotional service. I'll give you an example. Just give me 1 minute. Be right back. There's a story in the Shastras. It's mentioned, I'm not sure where it is. It's a common story. We hear it at different times. There was an arti going on in one temple. And the arti was actually over. And the ghee lamp was left on the altar burning. At that time, a rat ran onto the altar and his tail got caught in the ghee, in the fire of the ghee lamp. Now his tail is on fire. So he's now burning, but he's waving his tail around. And it was mentioned that he is actually worshiping the Lord with that ghee lamp by waving his tail around. And that rat died and got liberation.
Oh my
What does this say? This is the power of bhakti, that even accidentally, if one performs some kind of devotional service, they get some spiritual merit. Well, he's a rat, but he was just waving his tail around because it was on fire. But the Lord accepted it, that he was actually offering arti to him with his fiery tail. So that story, Prabhupada mentions it too in his lecture. How even this unknowing animal got liberation just accidentally or out of circumstance. So it can happen, and that's just one example. If a dog somehow or other gets some prasadam from someone, then they may qualify them to get a human birth in their next life.
And Marge, I think her second question is how does she know that she has been running around in the material world in a previous lives, I think, something like that, right, Mother Scarlett?
As a human, all the time as a human. Or how do I know I was not animal before? And now I'm getting now I'm human. How do I know I was not human and human and human again and again?
What does it matter whether you know it or not? What is that going to do to you, whether you know it or not? It doesn't matter. Is it going to make any difference?
I just, because I think, I always think the life circle that Lord wants it to have, it's, for me, it's, I have difficulty to understand why to go to the animal and from animal to the human.
You have to take the spiritual principle.
Okay.
To understand the details, that's something else. But you have to understand the principle mentioned in the Shastra. The living entity falls to the material world, and it transgresses or transmigrates from one species to another until it reaches the human form of life. When it reaches the human form of life, then it has a chance to get out of the material world and go back to God. So, therefore, the Shastras say, and the spiritual teachers, along with Srila Prabhupada, say, we've been in this material world for millions of lifetimes in different species. And now we have a human form of life. Human form of life is a very rare form of life. Most other forms of life are more numerous. To get a human form of life is quite rare. And it's a benediction because it's an opportunity to get out. So we take the principle, yes, we've been in this material world for so long. Now we got a human form of life. Let me see how I can use it to cross over this ocean of material suffering and go back to the spiritual world. So if you want to remember what it was like in previous lives, then you can't. You won't be able to do that because you forget. Because if we were to remember our previous lives, we would remember our previous deaths also. If you remember your previous deaths, you can have a very traumatic experience simply by remembering that, how you died. So therefore, this forgetfulness is the arrangement of the Lord, so you can carry on in the present. If you were to think I was the king of a country in my previous life, now I'm in a very less position. You might think, well, I'm actually a king. And then you can't function in your present position, and therefore you lose the opportunity to make advancement. All of these things are not, because death means for forgetfulness. And Prabhupada also taught, and the scientists, and this is also mentioned, that, what is it? I forgot. I don't know, there's also a biological explanation of how forgetfulness comes when we take another birth. That's also mentioned too, in the biological point of view. But anyway, don't worry about what you were in the last life. It's not going to help you. This life is what's important.
Why I do it all the time, because there are experiences in life that make ones to want to just understand why was that happened, and because it's something that it's very difficult to just leave
All
it.
right. If you really want to go down, then go ahead and waste your time trying to figure that out.
No. I just mean why I wondered about it. Not that I'm not going to leave it, but I just wanted. I just wonder about it. Another thing, can I please ask one question? One more question, please.
Listen, I'm not sure you got the first two.
Yes, I understand that. I got that. I promise you, I got that.
These questions, people don't hear my answers, or they don't like my answers for some reason. We just go back and forth, and we just waste so much time. Try to understand the answer and listen to the answer and try to understand it. I'm giving you I'm quoting Shastra, I'm quoting Guru, and still you're arguing on that. So
No. I'm just trying to explain for you. I'm going why I did this, why I asked this question. Not that I mean I have still this question. Thank you for answering that. I just explained why I had that question. Not that
ask somebody else right now. Don't waste my time, please. And all the time of all these other devotees here.
Okay. There is a question about
give you the answers to all your questions. Just think about it. If you don't like it, ask somebody else.
I don't say no. Please,
I'm
please.
not going to say anything else.
No.
I give you the answers. Either you accept them. If you don't have to accept them. If you don't accept them, fine. That's up to you. I'm not forcing you to accept it, but I'm not going to go back and forth arguing with you about the fact that you can't understand what I'm saying.
No.
It's just not. We're wasting time.
I have understood. I'm so sorry. Please forgive me.
Why don't you ask a question like, how can I serve? How can I make advancement in Krishna consciousness? instead of thinking about your past life. It's a waste of time. It's a waste of time. I'm saying this not because of my own opinion. The Prabhupada has said this so many times to others. You're wasting your time trying to figure out what happened in the past. Now is the important time. You're wasting the time that you could be using to make advancement in Krishna consciousness, speculate on something that's not even going to help you. Waste of all of it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Maharaj. Are there any questions from devotees before we end this class? And
Let's go on to Japa.
that was my next point, Maharaj, and you just read my mind.
No, I didn't read it. I actually programmed it.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Okay.
Thank you for programming in my mind.
I'm going to make a statement. You can decide. Can we have an extended japa period? Of course,
I'm sorry.
But you as the host, I'm speaking to you only. How long can you stay on?
March, I can stay on for a round because I have an office Zoom call meeting in about 15-20 minutes.
Okay, so then then we have to drop the thing after 15 minutes.
Yes, Maharaj. Like,
Okay.
like right now for me, it's 5:09 a.m., 8:55 a.m. So I can go on till 9:15. Yeah, 20 minutes.
All right, so you make the signal when we should stop.
All right, March. Thank you, March.
Okay. Thank you. Oh, my obeisances to all the devotees. Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Sivasari Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Rama Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama Rama Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Krishna, Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare. Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Hare Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Hare Rama, Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna. Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna. Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna.
Maharaj, is it okay if I end now, Maharaj, by your permission?
Yeah, by your call, he's fine.
Thank you so much, Maharaj. And thank you to all the devotees for joining us. And we hope that you have a wonderful day, whatever is left of your day. For some of us it's starting, some of us is ending. And we want to thank Maharaj for a wonderful class on the appearance, glories of Lord Vamanadeva and Srila Jiva Goswami. Vanchakraptibhyascha, Kripasindu Bevacha, Patitanam Pavanebhyo.
Yeah, Maharaj wants
Yes.
to say something.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I just wanted to say something to Srimati that available for class tomorrow and Thursday.
Okay,
So,
it's gonna, yeah. Thank you.
that's all.
Thank you.
Thank you. I apologize. Thank you, Shruti, for calling me out loud. Had my eyes closed.
No problem. Thank you. Thank you for tolerating me.
There's no tolerating at all. We're just learning and growing together in Krishna consciousness. Vanchakaptibhyascha, Kripasindabevacha, Patitanam Pavanebhyo, Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Srila Prabhupada ki. His Holiness Candramauli Swami ki jai.
Hi. Guru Maharaj ki
Hare Krishna.
Jai.
That's
Thank you so
Puja
much, Guru
Ki
Maharaj.
jai.
Thank you, Mataji.
Hare
Thank
Krishna,
you.
Guru Maharaj. Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna.
Maharaj.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Guru Maharaj.
Thank you for your time, Guru Maharaj.
Thank you, Guru Maharaj.
Thank you, Mataji.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Mataji. Hare
Thank
Krishna.
you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hari Hari Bol.
Yeah, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.